So listen, I'm all for having fun with the hype and speculation around what Nintendo may be planning for the successor to the very successful Nintendo Switch that we have today, but every now and then you see a quote-unquote leak or rumor gain a lot of traction online, and you step back and you realize, why is this gaining traction online, especially when it comes from a source that has zero track record, and we honestly have zero reason to believe this particular rumor could be true at all. Yet it gets picked up in the YouTube community and on reputable websites. Some large channels are talking about this, and some large websites are talking about this. And the rumor in question that you've probably seen talked about online a lot recently is the Nintendo Focus, the supposed name of the unannounced Nintendo Switch successor. And there was a little logo that was done up by an individual on Twitter. It was an account that was created back in 2015. This just seems to me like somebody who decided to take to the internet and have a little bit of fun and opened up Photoshop and developed a logo that doesn't look that convincing to begin with. Yet somehow maybe that's the environment we're in, where everybody is so desperate for new Nintendo Switch information that it's going like wildfire and blowing up online. Now, there have been some legitimate reports that you should actually be paying attention to that signify that yes, Nintendo is doing a lot in terms of getting the puzzle pieces into place for their next gen hardware. There are various different financial investor briefings from companies saying that they're working with a Japanese company that will be launching a brand new console, gaming console specifically, that has not launched one in quite some time, in the early portion of 2024. And if that's when manufacturing would see their boost, you would logically expect that late 2024 rumor to potentially be true for when we will actually see the successor to the Nintendo Switch launch. And those are stories that you'll see me talk about with some kind of level of hype and excitement around it, because it does seem like it has some substance to it. And we've also had known leakers that have had information correct before, such as Nate the Hate, corroborate reports from Andy Robinson. Basically, there are dev kits out there. We may be able to expect things like an 8-inch LCD screen from the next gen Switch, and that's all very exciting. But when you look at the current story that we're going to read through an article, kind of to give you a full breakdown of why people somewhat ran with this and also now think they know some of the Switch 2 launch lineup, or I guess the Nintendo Focus according to this. Let's quickly read through this article typed up over on Tom's Guide together so you can get a full picture of what's going on here. Tipster claims Nintendo Switch 2 will drop Switch name and launch with Mario Kart. The Switch 2 could actually be the Nintendo Focus. The Switch 2 rumor mill has just churned out one of its most intriguing leaks to date. An unverified tipster has claimed that Nintendo will drop the Switch name from its next console, and the same sources also suggested the device will launch with a pretty killer lineup that includes a new Mario Kart game. Going by the name Jonathan Bark, the leaker has taken to social media to offer up some intriguing information. The biggest morsel is that Switch 2 will actually be called Nintendo Focus, and the source has also provided a logo for the device. Now you can then see the tweet in question, where this unverified account with no history, no track record of leaking anything correctly before says, here is the logo for the Nintendo Focus. I will share more information and videos in the upcoming days unless Nintendo comes for my ass, which they're not going to. First of all, this is one of those things that at first glance, if you think this is a real logo from Nintendo, I don't know how long you've been around looking at leaks and rumors, but just look at it itself. It's off-centered. There's a lot wrong with it. There's a clear visual light from this person's room, so I guess they didn't take a screenshot. Maybe they don't know how to take a screenshot of the logo that they created, but they rather took a picture of their monitor with notably different colored light bulbs in the background, and it's just got all types of red flags around it. Yet this is the article, as you can continue down seeing. Considering the juggernaut success of the Nintendo Switch, it seems unlikely that Nintendo will retire the moniker, but if there was ever a company to take such a bold step, it would probably be the Big N. However, looking at past trends, Nintendo did stick with the Wii name across 2 hardware generations. The Japanese company followed up its popular motion controls-based console with the underperforming Wii U, so dropping the Switch name would seem like a very strange call. Bart claims that the name comes from the device's VR capabilities, which are not further explained. To date, Nintendo has not entered the virtual reality arena with a product of its own, so we'd be surprised to see its next flagship device place VR at its center. However, Nintendo has a long track record of surprise moves, and perhaps this is just the latest one. The sources also provided information about the launch lineup for the Nintendo Focus. The console will reportedly come with a pack-in title called Relno Ramen Warrior. This will be a 3D platformer with co-op elements. And another key launch title will be Mario Kart. The leaker doesn't specify if this will be a new installment in the popular racing franchise or a port of a previous entry such as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is itself a Switch port of the original Mario Kart 8 that launched on the Wii U in 2014. Other titles mentioned by the tipster include a new F-Zero game called F-Zero Titans and ARMS 2, a sequel to the Switch fighting game. The latter is apparently set to release in 2025. Bark also indicates that Nintendo Focus will offer some form of backwards compatibility with Switch titles, but there will be a transfer fee of $2.99 per game. This would represent a very different approach to backwards compatibility than the PS5 and Xbox Series X, which offer the feature without cost. So even if you just take a second to examine the tone of how this article is talking about this report, it sounds like whoever wrote this on Tom's Guide is not even convinced that this will happen at all because it's a fake leak. It's pretty clear at this point. I would say I'm 99.9% sure that this person has no inside information, no inside knowledge, and just chose to create a logo for something. And just like you see, random people sometimes in the comment section say they know exactly what the plan is for Nintendo Switch 2. They know the release date and the launch lineup. And when somebody has that much information and they have like the game launch lineup and then a game that's going to come out in 2025, you probably are not talking about any kind of legit source at that point, because typically when we do see legitimate leaks, it is one source from one company that might know about one or two gaming projects. They might know that they have a dev kit. You might hear about a game or two that is in Nintendo's pipeline, but in terms of having the exact plans on what's going to launch the console, and you know of a Mario Kart game that nobody else knows about, I think that should cause a lot of suspicion in just about anybody's mind that maybe comes across this online because it's being talked about so prevalently. So you heard it here. This is not a real rumor. This is not a real leak. You kind of have to watch out for things like this whenever there is so much hype and anticipation around a follow-up to a no doubt incredibly successful console that will go down in the history books potentially when it's all said and done as the best-selling console period ever in gaming history. So yes, there's a lot of eyeballs on what Nintendo's going to do next and what features we may be able to expect from the successor to the Nintendo Switch, but it's not going to be the Nintendo Switch Focus. We're not going to be seeing it launch necessarily with the new Mario Kart, although I do think that would be a good business move for Nintendo to capitalize on the 50+ million units of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that's out there today. And who knows, maybe that is part of their broader plans, but this is not leaking that information. This is somebody who's having fun taking to the internet, trying to gain some clout. Again, when you have somebody with no track record, you have no previous information to go off of, and you have a logo that looks like it was done by somebody who's potentially in school learning Photoshop for the first time, you may want to stop and think about basing any of your expectations off of this information. And while websites and even YouTube channels will pick this up and potentially run with it and spin it as if it could be true information, you should really err on the side of caution with this particular one. Just basically you can write it off as it is 100% fake, but I think we will see more of this stuff as we get closer to the end of the Nintendo Switch's life cycle and into what Nintendo is planning next, just due to the natural hype around it. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions on this rumor, speculation, leak that's hit the internet that for some reason has blown up. Do you think that there's any chance that we're getting a game called F-Zero Titans? This thing is going to be focused around VR and it's going to ditch the Nintendo Switch name? Or do you think that likely this is 100% fake like I do? Also, what do you think the Nintendo Switch name will be? I'm personally on team Nintendo Switch 2, or better yet, Super Nintendo Switch, although I don't necessarily know that Nintendo will go with something like that. I hope that they make it simple though, and they market it correctly so we're not in another Wii U situation where people can't really tell what this console is, if it's a true step forward or not. And what, if any, Nintendo franchises do you think should launch the next generation Nintendo hardware? Do you think the launch game of a 3D Mario game rumor is true? Because I definitely could see Nintendo sticking to that. Do you think that maybe they do go with something like Mario Kart? Could we get a surprise Zelda in the launch window? And what do you personally hope we see the console launch with? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.